Do you ever feel like you're not taken seriously at work, especially in meetings? In this video, I'm going to give you some behaviors to look at that maybe you want to start doing or stop doing so that your colleagues take you more seriously. Hi, I'm Beth Strathman. Welcome to my channel where I offer common sense leadership solutions so simple and wise your employees will practically lead themselves. On my channel, I offer a wide variety of leadership strategies and techniques. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. So you feel like perhaps you're not taken seriously at work. So I'm going to have you focus particularly on your behaviors, what you do in preparation for, during, and after meetings to determine maybe some things you might want to start doing or stop doing. And by the way, my suggestions for you today are based out on a couple of different books that I've read in the past, one of which is called Breaking Through Bias. It's by a couple of authors named Kramer and Harris. And the other one is a very well-known book by Deborah Tannen called Talking 9 to 5. So check out those books for even more tips on how to be taken more seriously at work. So here goes. Tip number 1 is pre-pave before the meeting. And what does that mean? That means even before the meeting, once you know you're invited to a meeting or going to a meeting, whatever the topics of discussion are supposed to be, kind of feel out what the other meeting participants might think or feel about those particular topics. So this gives you a head start so you can start to see what the temperature in the room might be, whether people are in agreement with your point of view. And if not, maybe there's an opportunity even before the day of the meeting to start planting some seeds and have some informal discussions about at least some aspects of the topics that you're going to talk about. What this does for you is it just starts to allow people to get a sense for what you're thinking, gives you an opportunity to maybe change their thinking or influence their thinking on some of the topics. So you're a little bit more prepared going into the meeting, kind of know what to expect. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Pre-pave before you go in the meeting. Number 2, you might not be taken seriously if you either arrive late to the meeting or leave too early. So what do I mean by that? We obviously know that you need to be on time for the meeting, but just being on time might actually be too late. This means that maybe you need to arrive to the meeting 7 to 10 minutes before it starts and start just kind of networking and getting more familiar with and just chatting with the people who are starting to gather for the meeting. This helps you to kind of create and bolster relationships and also, network maybe with people or talk to people that you don't often get a chance to speak with in your regular routine in the office. Now, maybe you also leave too early. And what I mean is not going out before they've adjourned the meeting. That too can be a problem. But sometimes hanging around after the meeting is formally adjourned also gives you an opportunity to just informally chat with people, follow up on thoughts or comments that might have been said during the meeting that you thought were interesting or you required clarification. Again, doing it in a way that's more informal, not during the meeting. It gives you a chance to bolster relationships that maybe you haven't bolstered in the past. So be early enough and don't leave too early afterwards in those meetings. The third tip I have for you is you might not be taken seriously if you're acting more like a personal assistant during the meeting than a participant. This is especially true for women. So that means that it's okay to get coffee for people every once in a while or take the minutes every once in a while. But don't get in the habit of doing that all the time, because then people start to see you as more like the personal assistant. So just be very judicious about how much of the time you spend doing those tasks or volunteering, especially for those tasks. I know one time I was in a meeting, there were 2 other women in the meeting, and the chair of the committee said, so who's going to take notes? And the only people he looked at were the 3 women. And I just looked at him and said, I'm the worst note taker in the world. Perhaps you would like Bob to take notes or something like that. Just tried to say in a respectful way, don't look at me as a woman to take notes. So be careful that you're not finding yourself in personal assistant role all the time. People won't take you as seriously if you're doing those tasks that frequently. The next tip I have for you is when you're interrupted, don't back down. And that means that sometimes, again, for women especially, you'll be interrupted when you're midstream with a thought. And while this can happen to men as well. Women tend to back down and not reassert themselves. And so the way to just say to someone very calmly, hold on just a minute, I'm going to finish my thought, and then I really do want to hear what you have to say about it. Do it in a calm way, in a respectful way. If humor seems apropos at that time, throw in a little joke about it that would resonate with the rest of the people in the group. But don't just clam up and pull back and then be resentful. Also, don't lose your cool. Don't get emotional about it. There are just some personality types that can't wait to say what they want to say. That happens. But if you just calmly reassert your point, or just say to the person, I bet you have something really interesting to say about this, because I know we've had talked about it before, but hold on just a minute. I'm going to finish my thought, and then I do want to hear what you have to say. So don't back down. The next tip I have is confidently, people are not taking you seriously because you don't confidently stand behind your positions and opinions when appropriate. There are times to change your mind, but sometimes if you're asserting yourself, you'll back down too easily. And so again, this happens when people will make a point. They'll say something as though it's the first time it's been heard in the meeting, but you said it 3 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago, and it seemed like nobody heard it. But now that somebody else is saying it, it's like a new revelation to people. So again, don't back down. Own the fact that you put that out there first. That's appropriate. And again, be calm about it. Don't get angry about it. And if appropriate, use some humor around it. Like, wow, I'm glad when I mentioned it 5 years ago, it planted a seed for you to say that again in the meeting, or something like that. It also pays to have somebody else's back if it happens to somebody else in the meeting. Make sure that you're there to support them and say, yeah, Jim, that is an interesting point. And it was just as interesting 5 minutes ago when Betty said it, right? So be there to support other people when that happens to them. Also, if you're challenged, don't back down. So if you make an assertion, make sure you have the data to back it up. And someone challenges you around an idea or an assertion that you make, own it, use the data that you have to back it up, and don't apologize for making that assertion. And don't get angry about it. Just calmly, reassert your position and the evidence that you have that you're using to stand on that position. And then finally, one of the reasons you're not perhaps taken seriously is maybe when you speak, you just use too many words, right? You just use too many words to describe what you're wanting to say, or you do I'm just thinking out loud here, and then your thoughts don't seem to be cogently put together. So just make sure that if you are that personality type that tends to want to think out loud, maybe you've spend a little time doing some thinking ahead of time before you go into the meeting about the topic, so you can kind of distill your thoughts. Go speak out loud to yourself in your car or your office or whatever. Or, if it seems right at the time and the people know you pretty well, you can say, well, just be patient with me while I just think through this, and then try to logically lay out your thoughts so far in a way that doesn't seem like it's rambling to other people. Okay, so those are my tips, about 6 of them I have for you there, to be taken more seriously in meetings. I'm curious to know what your experience is about, not being taken seriously, maybe what you did to overcome it, what feedback you got that helped you to be more confident and assert yourself better and be better prepared. So leave a comment below about that. Interested to see what that is. Also, don't forget, get my free tool, the Conversation Planner. I'll put the link below to that. And there's also a link to a blog post that I have about meetings. So I think that's it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with other people who might find it informative. And until next time, I'm Beth Strathman with Common Sense Leadership Solutions. So simple and wise, your employees will practically lead themselves.